go. Oh, there we go. All right. Morning, everybody. So, who have we got in the room? We've got Romson, Albert, Titus, Shelley, Brett, Altus, Stephen. Hey guys, morning. How are you? If you want to pop your cameras on, that would be amazing. We love to talk to real humans. So, if you're in a position to put your camera on, that would be awesome. If not, it's all good. We understand if anyone's driving or anything like that, as people sometimes do when they jump on the webinars. Please pay attention to the road and not the camera. We do not want to hear screeching car tires in the background. That would be cool. So, guys, this morning, I'm really excited this morning. We have got Ty Shane on with us this morning. If you know who Ty is and you follow him on social media, then you may know a bit about his journey and his story, which we'll get into in a minute. But I would say that Ty has gone through, not to understate it, a little bit of adversity in his life to where he is now, and he's moving forward. He's becoming a bit of a weapon in AI and cold email and outbound email marketing. He's traveling the world, running around Asia at the moment, having a good time there, and pretty inspirational. So we're going to do. I guess we're going to do two things. Why I wanted to bring Ty on today is like I've been following him on social media for ages, and his story is just it's quite incredible from where he's been to where he is now. And then he's also got some amazing stuff to share as well in terms of education. So we always want to do some education here for everybody as well. But I really wanted to start out with Ty, just say thank you so much for coming on, mate. And I would love you to introduce yourself because I don't think I could do even justice to your story of where you've been and where you've come from. Just to let people know, and I really want people to take this on board and go, hey, wherever you are now in your journey, there's a lot of people going through, trying to build a SaaS, trying to build a business, running through the family, having a bit of a bad day. Um, your story is inspirational, mate. So I would love it if you could just introduce yourself, please, and where you've been and where you've come from and where you are today would be amazing. Thank you, Ty.
100%. Thanks, Gary. First of all, I just want to remind everybody that it doesn't matter like where you're at in life or who you are. You have a story and you have lessons and you have experience that many people will benefit from. And like they always say, like the best person to help is a previous version of yourself. So I just want to plant that seed in everybody's mind right now that don't undervalue the adversities because I mean, as you move forward in life, as we all know, and many people here are much further than I am. Obviously, most of you probably are. Um, you know, that's fuel for someone else's journey, for other people's journeys. So just want to plant that seed right there because I think a lot of us don't think our stories matter, and so I want to tell you that your story does matter. And even if you help only one person, I mean that's generational impact. And so one of my reframes just on the story subject is like, so our experiences are chemical, and so like how something makes us feel is just a bunch of chemical reactions happening in our brains. And so one of the things that I've learned to tell myself is what the worst thing that is happening to me right now is like chemically no greater than the last worst thing that happened to me. And so it's like if I'm right here right now, then I made it through that last chemical response experience. And that for me grounds me out. So ex-addict, ex-felon, spent my most of my 20s in prison and got out, met my birth mom, went on a healing journey. God took me on. It's all glory to God. And those experiences just taught me the value of, how do I say this? We're all on a journey. We're building businesses, we're building softwares, we're trying to create, generational impact in our lives, our family, our children, and stuff like that. And so, I mean, I guess the best way to put it is like we're all paying prices, and it's like the short-term sacrifice for the long-term gains. And so, like, how do I say this? Adversity and struggle, it's like a worldview or a lens, and it's a mindset. just like with like business now and AI, it's like, okay, if I approach solving this problem from like an AI vantage point, it looks different than it did 5 or 10 years ago when I didn't even have that AI lens as part of my worldview. And so, like how we reframe our, story and our experiences literally dictates our future emotional and chemical associations to those experiences. And like, as you guys all know, and I know, the reason that I had to go through those hardships was because who I was then had to die. And so everybody here, like where we are now, like what got us here won't get us there type of a mentality. Like that's how I look at addiction now. That's how I look at incarceration. That's how I look at, fighting the childhood traumas from being adopted, being birthed to a 13-year-old, and just a lot of other experiences that impacted me. It's like they all undid who those experiences kind of influenced me to become. And so if I didn't go to prison, if I didn't do like a year of 23-hour lockdown and these different experiences, then I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't have the fortitude that I have from a mental, strength perspective. And I would have been forced to face the demons of my childhood self. And so I just frame it like that because like I don't really like talking about my story as much as how my story has impacted my worldview and my, reframes and my mindset, how it brought me closer to God, how the lows basically for me have created the runway for the highs. My hardest lessons are the reasons why I didn't do certain things again. I don't know if this resonates with anybody, but I dropped out of college for marketing and AI, ended up in a homeless shelter like 4 months later, like completely failed. And that experience, although very painful, it's like I'm sober for 5 years, 4 years at this point, living in a homeless shelter, wondering like how did I get to where my addiction had me 4 years earlier when I started college from the homeless shelter. And I dropped out of school to take a risk, to take a chance, and I still ended up kind of like environmentally and like tangibly where I was before I even like went to college, went into business, and ended up in that homeless shelter. And like how do I say this? It forced me to recognize limiting beliefs around money and value, and my mental associations to like putting value on myself and asking people for the sale. So my biggest bottleneck at that point was I wouldn't ask for the sale. And it took me hitting the homeless shelter and literally crashing and burning like 90 days into trying to make money for myself. And if it weren't for that, I wouldn't have passed 6 figures last year. And so that was in 2023. And then, like just having a little bit of momentum and success in 2024 was rooted in that failure. And so if I hadn't ended up in the homeless shelter, and just a complete failure, dropped out of college to fail, my first go at marketing, and generating my own revenue, then I wouldn't even be here talking to you right now, just to remind everybody here that like your lows and the pains, they all build and accumulate over time, so you
Mm.
can be who you're seeking to become through those experiences. Because if we were millionaires, we'd all be millionaires right now. So obviously, it's a reason we're not. I don't know who's here. Many people here are probably way further along than I am, but it's like you weren't always that. And if you were that at the beginning, you would have already had it. So that means you had to basically die unto yourself to become that next best version of yourself with the new habits, the new mindset, and the experiences that mold and create, that new you, that better you, the more refined you, more experienced you, more wisdom filled you. And so like that's basically my story in a nutshell. Is it's just a reminder to us all that when you're broken, you have to be put back together. And I would say when you get put back together, um, the only way to be put back together is to remove old pieces. And so
Yeah.
it's like you have to be broken and then you have to be put back together. But this is where, for me, God and Christ is so powerful, is because it's like I didn't need those three pieces that stayed down. Like they needed to stay broken off of me. And then, like the new habits, the new mindset, the new experiences, like fill in those voids and those gaps. And whatever gets created is better than the previous version. But it had to be broken first. And so I think that's like the first, at least for me, first 1, 2 years of business is just basically doing everything wrong and in life, doing everything wrong. Like how you thought as a 16-year-old versus now is going to be like exponentially different. And that's part of why you're able to get results now than you could when you were 16. So that's just the story of all of our lives. And yeah. So I don't know if that was specifically how you had that in mind, Gary, but I mean, I think that's yeah, it's just the mindset. And that's what I would want everybody to walk away with
Yeah,
from this webinar.
I think like literally as we were coming on here, you're like, great, thank you for the opportunity. I don't do this too often. And like we're still like we run webinars every week. We've been doing that for a year. And you said this is a great opportunity for me just to put in some more reps. And that's what it is. You're putting in the reps every day. So the more reps you put in, the stronger you get, the closer you move forward. Like there's tons of things that we do and we could do with our webinars to make them better. And I even joked to you, I said, like, we do this every week. I still have like little Apple iPod speakers, right? I've been doing that for a year. They work. I plug them in. It's great. I could probably get a better setup if I want.
Yeah.
Today I'm actually in a hotel room because I've been at the SaaSpreneur event for the last couple of days. So this is the setup, and I'm just in a room with a laptop and whatever. But I use these all the time anyway because it just works. So just keep putting in the reps, get better, keep moving forward, and that's what you're doing on your journey at the moment. And it was really interesting. I was talking to some people, drinks and stuff. And there's one of the guys that I was talking to said, I'm actually really excited. I've got Ty coming on tomorrow and I've been following him online. So anyone, Ty shared a bit of his journey there. He shares a lot more online. I think if you don't know who Ty is and you don't follow him on social media, go and look him up on Facebook. Um, just follow along on what he's doing. I think his journey is really inspiring at the end of the day. Um, but yeah, I was talking to a guy last night. So I'm really excited to have Ty on because I've been I feel like I know this guy. It's that funny thing, right? We've never spoken before 20 minutes ago, right? But I sort of know this guy, and I'm excited to see what he's doing. And he's doing all this stuff with AI and email. And he'd done one of your courses. He did one of your classes, and he's like, "Yeah," he goes, "You should see the shit that guy's doing with like AI and email and stuff these days." He goes, "It's amazing." So I wanted to ask you before we do get into like training and doing some teaching and some education for the guys here. It's like, as an ex-felon, someone who spent 10 years in prison, right? And you said you spent like a year on 23-hour a day lockdown. I don't imagine that you had a lot of computer skills. Like, so how do you go from like that and coming out, not only, being in that position, and I don't imagine that's a great place to pick yourself up from, but then to go, okay, now I've got to learn all these new skills. And then like, how did you kind of pick that up and then teach yourself? And you mentioned earlier, you kind of failed a bit at first and then came back in because of the sales and stuff. But how do you go from where you were to recognizing an opportunity like you have done and then teaching yourself the skills to get to where you are now? And literally, as I said, I'm at a conference and I'm just explaining to someone who I've got on and I'm interviewing tomorrow. And he's like, "Oh yeah, that guy's he's fire." That's amazing. So how did you manage to do that and learn all those skills, mate?
I mean, I have to say this is where ADHD is a superpower. I mean, that might really be my part of the secret weapon. But no. I cheated in 2000 in like 2002 when I was 12. I was building computers. I was doing like FTP, like uploading through FTP, like file upload, like the file, something file transfer protocol.
Yep.
Like this is the old school days. Like uploading and so like I did Neopets back then. So like I was building websites and I was learning to code HTML and a little bit of PHP when I was 12 years old before I got into drugs. And
Ah.
so I've always kind of had and like I used to take things apart so I could see how they work so that I could put them back together. And I wasn't necessarily as good at putting them back together. I was just taking them apart. But so that I kind of cheated. I've always been kind of driven, and because like I learned how to put like password hackers, keyword loggers as a kid. So my parents, I put the keyboard logger on so I could get their password, so that I could get into my computer and then like I learned to like get a hard drive, install Linux on it. So when my computer was password protected, I just unplugged the hard drive, plugged into the one that I installed Linux on, and then I could get on the internet. And so like I was that's kind
So
of
so
how
you
I was
were
at 12 years old. So
all right. So you were kind of a, I don't know if this is the right word, but a bit of a nerdy kid starting out, and then I guess you took a
yeah.
bit of a 10-year sabbatical and came back. Is that
Longer than that, almost 20. Like it was from 15, because 15 to 17, I was in a group home. So I've been removed from society still. So this is just food for thought for everybody here. I've been out of society longer than I've been in it since I was 15 years old. Between being in a group home, being in prison, being in like rehabs and being in those things, like in about 8 months, I'll finally be at 50-50 split of freedom and lack of freedom since 15. So like I'm still catching up. So like just food for thought, everybody. Uh how do I say this? Like you're not as far behind as you think you are. So anyone here is sitting here thinking like, oh, I'm behind. Like these people are making all this money and I'm all the way back here. It's like, I mean, you're not as far behind as you realize. Just food for thought for everybody. But I mean, it's necessity. I mean, I would say too, like with AI, once you interact, so like I was doing Midjourney back in 2023. I cloned my first AI avatar client in 2023 using HeyGen. So like I've been ahead of the curve. So like how do I say this? When it comes to like AI and technology, once you get a certain level of comprehension, it transfers to everything. So like when I look at these new things, because I've been doing it for years, this applies for everybody here with whatever it is you're doing. It's like, oh, okay, I've already done that. So like I don't have to like learn anything compared to like I don't have to really learn as much as maybe change or add a couple small things because the process and the principles and the concepts of the technology of the mindset behind using the technology is still the same. And so I would say that's really just what it is using it enough to where like it's like prompting image hasn't changed. It's the same as it was in 2023. Prompting these videos, and stuff like that, or like how do you create a prompt that would then create like a VO3 video? Jeff Hunter's out there pushing some cool little low ticket offers right now, and part of yeah, all I'm saying is what he's done with these GPTs to create these VO3 videos. It's the same as you would have approached it for the VO2. It's just the outputs are going to come out differently within the video, or maybe you get more specific now because the capabilities of that video editor are a little bit more comprehensive, so you can be a little bit more specific about certain things it can do. So like video now has voice, when previously it didn't have voice and video through a prompt, so they were kind of separate. And you
Yep.
merge files and bring it over here. But now VL3, it's like boom, you do this. So like all you're really doing is adding one more nuance to the prompt for speech. But then if you've already created speech, using 11 labs or something else, then you already understand, what potentially what that would look like, maybe, different tonality specifications around it. So like once you've dabbled in all these different things, it's the same. It's just maybe applied differently, and maybe just the context and the application have little nuances for different various things. But it's the same as it was 3 years ago. And that's kind of prompting. Like prompting hasn't changed. So I would say really too that's kind of just understanding that and not being as fearful of it. And for everyone here, you've been using the technology, just have confidence in your ability to use it. And so I would say that's kind of my long roundabout answer.
With your ADH superpower? It's funny, like at the conference, there's like 200 people here, and that's been a big topic of the conference. Like, who here's got ADHD? We're pretty sure everybody's got it, but just don't worry about it because it is your superpower, and it will just keep you going and thinking about new things and doing this and that and the other. Mate, now I think you've got a bit of a presentation that you're going to do, so for some bit of training. So if you want to jump into that, and also, like this is for education for everybody. Ty's got some resources, some stuff that you're going to give away at the end. You're going to give us some links or something. So it's not a pitch. I think you have got some training or stuff that people can buy later anyway if they want. But today, this is education. If they want to follow you on Facebook, I'd recommend it. If they want to buy your stuff later, cool, go and do that. We don't have affiliate links or anything like that for your stuff. We're just saying, hey, talk to Ty. and follow up with him later if you want to do anything here. But today we're going to have a little bit of a training about AI, some cold outbound, and the things that you're doing, which as I said, I'm talking to people last night at the conference. They're, oh yeah, that guy, this is some cool stuff. So I'm excited to see, mate. So I'll let you take it away.
100%. So thank you, everybody. So basically, just kind of going over what Gary's description. It was just, how to adopt the AI mindset to solve problems and innovate faster. The evolution of cold email in an AI-powered landscape. Why failing forward is more valuable than ever. The biggest business mistakes and what they teach us, and then a blueprint for building tech stacks to actually scale in 2025. And so I'm just going to basically walk through that framework. And I hope you guys, get a little something out of this, because I know we've all got, value to share with one another.
If anyone's
So
sorry to interrupt you, Ty. If
yeah.
anyone's got any questions as we go through, just pop them in the chat. I'll try and keep an eye on that. If anyone has any questions, I'll try and keep an eye on that and bring them up as we go through, or we'll have a bit of time for Q&A at the end as well, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, ask questions, please. So this right here, for example, this presentation, just think about AI. I don't know how to make a presentation. I don't know how to make, a fancy PowerPoint or anything like that. But it's just like the AI mindset. It's like, okay, I need to do this thing. I don't necessarily have the skills around it. What AI exists that can help me with it. So I use Gamma.app, and I'm sure maybe if not everybody here has used something like Gamma for creating a presentation, creating a slide deck, creating something. I mean, some people even use it for little simple web pages and funnels. And so that's part of the AI mindset that we're all now adopting. And so within each of our industries as well, there's AI applies differently to our industries, just like texting, so that's a real relevant, subject for here is SMS, for example. And so, when you guys look at SMS, well, how do we think? It's like, okay, how can we connect AI to this? How can we connect, whatever it is with SMS or emails or something within our CRM, using high level, for example. We basically want to power as many processes as possible with intelligence, and if possible, replace a human. We don't want to hire a secretary. So what AI can do this for us. We can't hire, I mean, most people probably, can't afford to hire a receptionist. So like what AI solutions exist? You got voice AI, you got, text AI, and they're literally filling entire roles. And so we're all already adopting the AI mindset, and it's like, how do we solve with AI first? And I think this is becoming more of a like a baseline, process of thinking within all of our businesses now. And basically, all we're using it for is to optimize, automate, and innovate. And I mean, who here doesn't use AI for attached to SMS? Does everybody here use like AI with SMS for chatting with clients or customers or having conversations or like
Drop a
helping out
drop a one
prospects?
in drop a one in the chat, guys, if you do, or a two if you don't. Got a one, got a two. So 50-50 so far, a two, two. So three people not, one person doing it.
Oh wow, I'm surprised because like speed to lead and stuff like that. Of that's surprise. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
so
Guys, we've got to hook you up
nobody
for that. We
here.
we got free AI bots that we can give you. So
Yeah, 100%. Because like for me in my industry for cold email, like part of the evolution is speed to lead. So one of the reasons most people struggle with booking meetings with cold email is because they don't respond to the email, and it's just like with a paid ad. You want to respond within 3 minutes, 2 minutes, for sure 5 minutes. I
yep.
mean, that's the general rule of thumb. And so like AI now is guaranteeing speed to lead. So like for me, when my new value proposition that I couldn't have had before AI is I can guarantee speed to lead on all of our outbound communications because of AI now. And so instead of hiring an inbox manager, I thought, okay, how can I solve this problem? How can I solve this need with AI first? And then if I can't solve it in a way that gives me, at least a threshold of efficiency, then, I'll look at the more human driven solutions. And so I think this is how we're all starting to approach. Well, maybe not everybody here, but I think that's how we're all starting to look at business in AI. And so it's just asking the right questions. And I would say for this, the right question generally is how would I solve this with AI, especially as it's getting more and more and more intelligent. And so the fast movers win, obviously, because if your bottleneck is, role based and, you're not using AI and you're not, creating different automated sequences for, that are triggered by specific events, you're going to require more output capacity than your competitor who's just filling these gaps with AI and moving and moving and moving forward while you're still at the 20-yard line or the 30-yard line, waiting for the center to just hike the football so you can, move the ball down the field. And they're just going, 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 going. So I think, yeah,
Can I
so
ask you, can
speed.
I ask you a question, Ty, just on that? How would I solve this with AI first? Do you ask AI, how would I solve this problem to get the answer? Because that's what I do.
Oh,
I
absolutely,
go to Manus and
absolutely.
ask it.
Well, 100%. And even in this presentation, I'm going to go over, some recent examples. Like I use now AI because of the web search capabilities. I use it to help me identify which software is the best for me to use.
Mm,
So like yesterday, I need something. I'm like, hey, I need API capabilities. I want to be able to white label it. And then within, the niche of software and platforms that can do this, I want you to give me a pros and cons analysis and give me like the specifics about the white label and how it works. Like, is it like a gray label, a white label? Like, can I put my own brand logo on this? Like, what's the process? Which one's like the simplest to use? And it just broke it down. And what would have taken me, a lot of research, testing out, I just literally just prompted in 2 seconds. AI solved a software gap for me. And sure, we're all using AI like this, but it's just getting more and more and more robust. And I mean, just the time that we have to spend on things now is like deep research. If you do deep research, I did a go to market competitor analysis for one of my clients. I ran it for one of his businesses, and it literally took me less than 5 minutes to have deep research, go out, scour, identify the digital footprint strategies, how many like followers and connections these people had from like LinkedIn to TikTok to YouTube, and just went out and gathered all the information. It went out and identified who the other competitors are, and then it did that reverse engineering blueprint, and then literally boom, got a whole document that 2 years ago you would have had to pay someone 1,000, 2,000, maybe you go on Fiverr, you get it for 500. And now, just like Manus, as you know, we're
mm,
returning like a month's worth of work, tens of thousands of dollars in labor into literal minutes.
yep.
And like, if we all look at our prompts now, I swear prompting's gotten easier. So like, you can have like a kind of like prompt, and it'll still do amazing things now. And so yeah, so a little bit of a tangent there. And so just like within the mindset of AI, so I mean, I think this is where I think a lot of us get mixed up right now is understanding the gap between innovation and adoption. And so it's just like right now, look at VO3, for example. It's, you can put a whole bunch of clips together, you spend like $50, and it looks like you've got this production grade, 30-second clip. And you just clipped all these little 5-second clips together to create scenes and to create different, production level, videos with audio. Um, how long is it going to be till like that's actually kind of the norm and it's not necessarily an advantage? And so that's the gap between adoption and innovation. And so I think that's where, like, as we're all going through business and kind of looking at how do we stay competitive, especially, in certain markets, um, uh, just really being conscientiously aware of where we are on this. Are we ahead, or are we still doing something that you can have AI do that you're just not doing because you didn't think that you could do it? And so I think like just accepting that you're going to, and this isn't going to within the future slides as well too, where it's like, um, there's nothing wrong with taking a risk to explore innovating some sort of process or system in your industry around problems that you solve, by integrating AI into that solution. And I think this right here is where everyone in this entire webinar has an advantage. I mean, you might be like me in echo chambers, where it's like, oh man, everybody's using AI. Like, oh my gosh, I'm not moving fast enough because I just watched 20 people do 20 different amazing things with AI. Reality is we're not all using it to its full potential. We're all kind of staying within our range of, like hyper relevancy to our business. And so, I just think this is an important thing to understand. You know, how do I say this with AI right now? Like, we don't need to focus on perfection. It's just like as I get into Klarna. So you guys all heard about Klarna. They replaced like 70%, 60%, or whatever it was of their workforce with AI. They did something real big. I don't quote me on the specifics of that, but it was like a 60 to 70% like replacement rate, and they saved like it's $100 million plus or whatever the specific amount was. But they failed. It blew up in their face. It created, client dissatisfaction, and it just created a whole slew of problems. And like a lot of people, myself included, is we kind of look at it and we're like, oh wow, like Klarna messed up. They went all in on AI and it blew up in their face. But the real thing is at least they tried. you know. So at least Klarna tried. So they went big. They're like, hey, we're gonna save like 9 figures in hard costs, and we're gonna replace all these people with AI. And so they replaced all these people with AI, and it created problems. And so I just think this is an important lesson for everybody. I'm not mad at Klarna. Sure, they lost some money, but what would have happened if they'd have succeeded? And they could have succeeded if they'd done it differently and they didn't, approach it so recklessly. And they maybe because it's something so new, instead of going like this 60-70% replacement ratio, maybe they should have gone 20, and just incrementally integrated it into their business, and kind of segment the different parts of the process that they use the AI for, instead of thinking like this all or nothing kind of approach, which is what they kind of described they did. And so, I mean, we should all be trying to be Klarnas. And when I say that, it's like we should be trying to save 9 figures or like increase our efficiency exponentially by replacing or filling gaps with AI in our processes and our systems. And so if they done it differently, so like if Klarna, I promise you this, I guess this is where the real question is like in 5 years, is Klarna going to go back and repeat this again, but do it right? How long is it going to be until that becomes the industry norm and Klarna almost has to do it because everybody else is doing it? And because of those reductions in costs and hard costs and overhead, now they can be more competitive on price, because like, oh, hey, we just saved 100 million, so we can pass some of that off to the consumer. And so then they're going to start getting, the competitors will have a competitive edge because they just cut their overhead by, 70% successfully. And nobody even knows the difference between an AI and a human, just like those VO3 videos. You can't tell in some of those. I mean, you go to some of these video editors now, you can't tell what's real and what's not. And so like that's the future that we're headed into. So knowing that you're not going to be able to tell, where is that line actually going to be. And so I would bet you if I had $1 million right now, I would bet $1 million that they're going to end up going back, and at some point they're going to have 70% replaced with AI. They just, just food for thought for us all is they're, they went large scale, a little bit too big. Maybe they're looking at like, how do I say this? I guess just like the KPIs they were looking for, maybe a little bit skewed. So maybe they should have focused on, different, solving. Yeah, instead of like focusing on, hey, let's replace 70% and maybe these specific kinds of jobs, maybe they looked at from like a process standpoint. It was like, hey, this process has 5 different phases. Let's replace like 2 or 3 of the phases, with AI and slowly incrementally increase that after proving concept on a smaller scale. I think that's what they should have done. And so, I mean, at some point they're going to end up doing the same thing because, like, why wouldn't you? In 5 years, what is the likelihood and how fast we've seen AI advance over the past 2 years? And it's just speeding up, speeding up, speeding up. What's the likelihood in 5 years that, this would be the right move? So, yeah, I just don't think try, fail, adapt, evolve. I just think it's important right now that we don't fear, making those changes. So, cold email, kind of that's my bread and butter, guys. And secret, I just use AI for everything. I use AI for copy. I use AI for deep research. I use AI to reply. I use AI to book the meetings. So that's my secret. My job's literally gotten 20 times easier over the past 6 months because I just use AI. I respond fast, book meetings faster, and I'm not a copywriter. And so using AI, we just replaced, and this is where like cold email is really evolving. We've replaced inbox manager and a copywriter with AI. And so, doing deep research. So as you guys probably know now, you can get access to information. You can scour the web instead of having to go to Google and click 5 different, pages. AI will go and sift through all the pages and output something in like less than 5 seconds. Or if you're doing deep research, it's a couple minutes. Just think of how if you make that and you put how long it would have taken you before, and you put this, 5 minutes to like 3 hours, and like it's gone and done all the clicking for you, all the, is this a good source? Is this not a good source? Like which source is more, credible? It does all that for us now. And so, in cold email, the number one evolution is the ability to research prospects and aggregate data, enrich data, and then intelligently use that to have AI position itself, have AI identify the pain points, so you can at scale treat on the lead level. You can basically create variable AI outputs that take each individual lead's, data points. Because it's like if you have, for example, think local business, low reviews versus high reviews, the high reviews is probably going to be running ads too, versus the low reviews with the lower rating type of local businesses. And so the AI can position itself in your offer and with the problems that you solve in a very relevant manner based on having as much information on the prospects as possible, or just being able to go web scrape. It's just like now, I mean, you can automate collecting all sorts of information on your client, on prospects when they book on your calendar. And you can go connect all these different AIs, go scrape the web, go, scrape their LinkedIn, go scrape their website, go scrape the news articles that they were in, go scrape their employee data on LinkedIn. Like you can do all sorts of different stuff. And then you can use AI to give you a report on like, what actually matters to this person based on that data. So AI is super useful, guys, in prospecting and outreach. And it's just, I would say it comes from the ability to do deep research in seconds now. So in cold email, guys, it's really important more than ever. So when personalization isn't just writing some like, just anything doesn't work as personalization. It needs to be relevancy to what you're offering, or relevancy kind of in a pattern disruption, standpoint. So like if someone's LinkedIn says that they've been to the Navy, and you start out a thing around, their work in the Navy, that's just like, how do I say this? That's at least shown that you've done some sort of level of research, especially if that was picked up more from multiple sources, or like, how do I say this? Like say their LinkedIn doesn't say it, but their, website or like some article that they were in says it, and you mention it, that's going to pattern disrupt because most people don't do that. And they wouldn't have been able to figure that out at scale. And so they'll automatically assume, okay, this wasn't mass produced. This is probably from a human. It's probably actual real email. And so now your ability to do that at scale using AI without even being a part of it, like I don't even read the emails that I send out. I don't know what I'm sending out. I just know that I validated the framework. I ran it across 10 leads. And at that point, I'll run it across 10,000 leads and let the AI create the copy for them all. And I won't even see the email or what the copy specifically is until they reply. And obviously the AI already replied to them, but I'm just, looking through babysitting, making sure, every 3 days now I'll check my AI system to make sure that it's, effectively replying, didn't miss anything. Maybe there's some sort of little bug that happened, or like maybe some just variable output happens. And so now I just review it versus having to actually manage it,
Mm.
or even worse, have to delegate and watch someone else do it for me and have to check in with them. No, my AI replies like 98% of the time under 2 minutes. No ifs, ands, buts, or whats. As long as, I've managed, access to resources, access to API tokens, stuff like that. And like you couldn't get that before AI era, you know? 3 years ago, there's not a single person that could guarantee speed to lead because humans are fallible. Humans are inefficient. All inefficiencies stem from a human. Therefore, humans are inefficient. And so, um, in cold email, for example, so like we started to branch out. And so now we're doing hyper personalized Twitter and hyper personalized direct mail that is used like robo quill written postcards. In end of 2024, Microsoft made it almost nearly impossible to get into their servers from a cold vantage point. So like deliverability is like sub 40%, but it's like atrocious within Microsoft. So the outbound landscape is evolving in itself. Like you have to get more nuanced to protect deliverability. So now you're validating emails, but now you're also validating what server that recipient is using. So looking at their MX records, and it's like, are they a Google, are they a Microsoft, or what? And so we, as a general rule of thumb, is we now skip all Microsoft servers. We just send to Google's and SMTPs basically. Or if we
Okay.
do, we set aside some specific inboxes that would be Microsoft's to send to there. But we already know that our deliverability rate is going to be terrible. And so we now just skip over Microsoft's. So I run that as part of my check. And I'm like, Microsoft, I'm like, okay, cool, I'm skipping you because over time you're going to hurt my deliverability. And knowing that I can get into Google's SMTPs pretty seamlessly, every time that I have something go to spam from trying to send to a Microsoft, I'm increasing the probability of damaging my sender's reputation. And so now the Google inboxes that were easy to get into have just become difficult to get into because I was already trying to get into inboxes that I know statistically I'm more likely to fail getting into than not. And so this has been kind of the landscape is changing because of AI. Think of how easy it is to do something at scale now. So we got to keep that in mind. Like LinkedIn now is cracking down on scraping because it's getting like, just think of how much information you could scrape with AI and the right infrastructures. Like, just imagine having all these proxy servers scraping all this stuff at the same time. How much stuff can they cumulatively get over time? And then how does that damage the original source's leverage of their information? So just think about like LinkedIn gets paid because of its information that it provides to the users. People buy premium because it gives them specific accesses to specific, features, but data more importantly. And so now everyone's like, crap, we got to start protecting our stuff because AI makes it so easy for people. Um, um, uh, oh, Titus, many of my cold email accounts are Microsoft ones, like for the recipients, like the recipient servers or your own servers. Oh yeah, no. I mean, generally speaking, like I build my system thinking about like this. I build like 10% Microsoft and then like the rest SMTP and Google. And because like how do I say this? I know that the Google getting into the Googles is going to be a lot easier than the Microsoft getting into the Googles. And I know the Microsoft's going into the Microsofts is going to have a better deliverability rate than the Google's going into the Microsoft's account. But then at the same time too is I'm also now on the front end filtering the recipient servers of Microsoft's. So generally I don't send from Microsoft to Google's. I have the Google or the SMTP going to the Google's. But I mean, there's no like specific right or wrong way to do it. I mean, there's a lot of people who just have like full on Microsoft, outbound engines. But personally, I focus more on Google just to begin with. I don't know if that answers your question. And then like all it is with technology now is it's just reverse engineering. Like the AI mindset is taking the outcome that you desire that used to be either inefficient, used to require extra intensive labor, or it used to be like a super manual process, and just reversing it back to tech. And so this is the most important thing I think right now for everybody. Like I just wish everybody had me as like fractional CTO just for like this one little tidbit of insight because you have to think AI first when you choose the softwares that you're going to use. Like you use my CRM, yeah, you work with Gary's company. I don't want to get the name wrong.
My CRM sim.
Yeah, it feels like a tongue twister.
It's all good.
I started saying it, I'm like, oh, guy, my tongue got twisted. You use that because you most likely use high level. And so, like, am I correct? Does everyone here use high level?
Drop a one if you do, two if you don't in the chat there, guys. I'm pretty sure everybody would.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And so like that's because of the integrative and like the intentional integrative capabilities. Like how do I say this? Like different softwares stack with different softwares. The
Mm.
softwares you would connect to HubSpot are probably going to look a little bit different than the ones you would connect to high level, just for the fact that high level is more the Swiss Army knife. And so like when you're building your tech stacks in business now, is you have to almost think of two steps ahead because imagine building this whole thing and then having to go and build it again in a different, stack because I'm just saying like the time, the resources, the plug and play integrated capabilities. Just like if I use Zapier, I know that I'm always going to be able to go to Zapier and connect all these different things. And so where's it at right here? Oh yeah, so like I just want to get on this. Thank you. I'm way behind on this, but like in the AI era, when you're building your tech stacks, like the best way to look at like Zapier, Make, NAN, is it's grease. It's grease, and it's the conduit between all of your tech. So between like high level workflows, for example, I'll use incoming webhook. I'll push. When we get a positive reply in cold email, my client uses high level. We'll just do an inbound webhook to a high level automated workflow and that creates a contact and tags it and then sends a notification or delegates that lead to a specific staff member. And then like Zapier would be like, okay, hey, I want to connect this, for example, I want to connect my Google Sheets with, my calendar because I want to, create some sort of a list for my VA to then have to go do something. Or you want to push it into a different software or database. So like, and they all work the same. Zapier, Make, NAN, and even the high level is all it is nodes and modules, or like Clay, which is what we drive for cold email. Clay is tables, but they're all they're columns, but it's all these little modules and nodes moving left to right. So like if you built in Make, you've already understand how NAN works. If you built in Zapier, you're probably going to have to put in a few more, input type of things within the different commands. Because like in Make, you gotta use all sorts of different like variable based language and all these little little equations with these different data sets and these different symbols and stuff. But in Zapier, you don't have to. And NAN is kind of in between Zapier and Make based on like complexity of setting up an automation. High level, because it's so natively integrated, it's pretty seamless process to connect all the different actions together. And then so like how do I say this? It's just like Make has certain integrations Zapier doesn't have. Clay has integrations with Zapier, but it doesn't have integrations with Make or NAN. So I have to approach how I would connect. If I'm like, hey, I'm using Clay, I need to do automations to Clay, I need these other things. It's like, okay, do I use Make, NAN, or Zapier? Well, I'm like, crap, just because of, the automated capabilities, I can do XYZ because they have a native Zapier integration that I need, to fully automate a process. Okay, I'm probably going to want to use Zapier and I'm going to have to bite the cost potentially because it allows me to replace a full-on human role through the automated capabilities. And then Zapier connects your high level with your, all the ClickUp. Like, I don't know what it is you guys use. Some people use stuff in high level, then they'll use Calendly, high level, you ClickUp. And so like building with an automation and AI integration mindset first is more paramount than ever before, because then you can just plug and play the different, language learning models, the different AI softwares. If you're on cold email and you use personalized videos, for example, you're going to be using most likely Zapier or Make to be able to push, that data into the personalized video software to then generate the personalized video, embed data. So then you can respond to that cold email and push it into, instantly or smartly. And so you basically are using separate platforms, and then you're greasing it with these three, with one of these three. So I don't think I did that justice. But like that's really like that's how we build our blueprint for tech stack right now is API capabilities. How can I bind all these different softwares and softwares together to create full-on automated flows like an AI agent? Think of AI agents in NAN. They're only as good as the software you can give access to and the API calls you can make. And if you want to circumvent that, you've got to like install on a server an AI autonomous browser like Browse User or whatever these other Skyvern or these other different solutions are, to be able to automate that through like a actual website interface where it clicks and identifies what's what, and it goes and clicks run just like Operator does. You can send Operator. I saw Jeff the other day. He brought Operator into all of his group invites in Facebook just so we could deny them all. Just what AI can do now is pretty. It's replacing more and more and more human, mundane, redundant actions than ever before. And just think like this: you got a CRM, you got a email sequencer, you need SMS capabilities. You got my CRM sim. Woo, I did it right.
Job.
And maybe use Calendly because you really like the interface and user experience, and it's got like this one functionality. Like I'm a high level user and I use Calendly. I don't like high levels calendars. And these just are, yeah, they've just been a more seamless experience for me. So like I'm going to want to think about, okay, if I need to automate a process that connects all four of these together, well, maybe TinyCal had a better API call than, Calendly did, or Calendly has better API call capabilities than high level state of integration, or, whatever it might be. So I want to be just aware of automating and integrating AI with my tech stack. And so I might want to pick a specific, platform just because it integrates with these two better than the other ones did. So just food for thought on how you build your tech stacks. Like with cold email, I used Smartlead for the longest time, and I wouldn't use Instantly because Instantly didn't have API capabilities that allowed me to auto respond and to do some other things where I could replace a human role. But Smartly did, Instantly didn't. And as soon as Instantly added API and then actually increased their like calls per minute to exceed smart leads, so like I never hit bottlenecks on too many API calls in a minute, I switched to Instantly because I'm like, okay, now their API capabilities allow me to automate at a scale and an efficiency that I now can't get with Smartly. So now I'm switched over to Instantly because of the the automative capabilities. And so I just, it doesn't matter what we're building or what we're doing. That's just the best way to. I hope I did that justice. And so just like with Klarna, guys, don't be scared to try new things out, integrate into processes. If you're not using AI with chatbots and prospects texting, I've heard of CloseBot, I've heard these other different solutions. High Level's got their native solution. Don't be scared to try it out. You don't necessarily have to adopt it, for example, like Klarna did and go all in. But right now your competitors are finding ways to use AI to move faster, be more lean without, losing, the necessary efficiencies of their processes and their systems to grow and scale. And they're just going to keep getting a competitive advantage over you. They're going to be able to offer things at a better price than you. And just over time, it's going to increase, that learning curve, and that basically increase the learning curve you're going to have to go on to, how do I say this? start to build those foundational pillars of AI and automation in your own business. So that's my long-winded presentation. I hope I wasn't too boring, too technical, or didn't lose you in the process. So thank you, Gary.
Mate, there was lots of little nuggets you dropped in there, mate. Things that I'd never even thought about before because we've talked about email deliverability and stuff before on there. And that was really interesting to me what you were saying there about you actually think about splitting it out and go, I'm not going to send to the Microsoft inboxes because I know that I'm going to have trouble with that. Or if I am going to do it, I'm going to use Microsoft accounts to do that and then Google accounts to go to the Google ones and stuff like that. So it's so interesting these things because I know, think about cold email. That's pretty simple, right? If you just think about it, you go, cool, I'm going to get a list and I'm going to send emails to them and I'll customize that and I'll say, Dear Gary, here is our offer, send. That's easy, right? But then you layer all these things you've just gone through with like the personalization and the stuff like that, where you can make it look like it's been an email from someone. And that's very similar to what we try to do with SMS when we're talking to our clients and sending out messages like database reactivations, for marketing offers, it's like be conversational, be human. And we're using AI and we're using technology. But remember, this is the thing I always try and tell people. It's like, remember, you're sending out text messages and you're doing database reactivation to 1,000, 2,000, whatever people. But when you write that message, you're writing it to one person. So just imagine you're communicating with a person, right? And you're doing that through email, basically, but allowing the AI to do all that research, customize it, humanize it, and then send it out to those people so they think that there is a person sending them a message, which is going to get much better responses, return rates than let me call it standard cold email. Take a list, write an email, put dear, insert custom field, contact name at the top, send, done.
Yeah.
Right? This is just like another level, mate. So thank you. There was a lot of nuggets in there of stuff. I've written a few things down here that I'm going to be looking up, especially like Gamma.app for your presentation, mate. I'm going to check that out because that's pretty cool. Did we have any questions for anyone? We're just pretty much on time, mate. So you did well. We got there. You hit it on the head. Have we got any other questions for anyone? I know Ty's had that question earlier, but any guys got any questions for Ty while he's here? Did you answer all the questions you went through, or people are just processing it, mate? It's like, Jesus, that was a lot to take in.
Awesome.
Dave loves instantly. Are you connecting API through Make or N8N or question mark?
Uh, NAN, because you can self-host it. Like if you use Make, like I'm just saying, like the accumulate, like between Make and Zapier, when you just look at operational costs and just the ability to scale, NAN, because yeah, Romson, what's your question?
Yeah, just unmute yourself, mate. You're fine.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to know, first of all, if I want the course, how do I get it and approximately how much it is? Okay. I just want to get an idea. Secondly, obviously, this is going to be an inroad into something like this because there are many, many courses about what they do to teach you strategy, but this one we're talking about a bit more technical than, and I would like to know a little bit more about it. Lastly, the last question I got was that the my CRM sim, okay, your basic or starter package was like it says 10 months. So you have to pay 10 months for the whole year. I wanted to know, do you have a monthly type of thing? That would be the question.
I'll answer mine first because it's quite quick. And no, you don't have to pay 10 months. So we have a monthly plan. When you go to our plans, you pay monthly or you can pay annually. And if you pay annually, then you get 2 months free. But on our homepage, I'm not sure where you're looking, but definitely you can order
No,
the
it's
quote,
just
mate.
a little bit confusing when I read through the thing because starter and then all of a sudden pay annually. And I was like wondering, it's like, oh God, man, I mean, I can't believe you're asking me for $1,000. Okay. But
Click on
anyways,
the order button, mate. You're going to see two options there: one to pay monthly, one to pay annually. So
and
definitely
then
just
you can upgrade to annually if you decided to go whatever.
yeah, absolutely. Yep,
Yeah.
you can do that
Okay.
anytime.
All right. Very good.
Ty, I'll
Okay.
let you answer about your course because honestly, I don't know how much it costs. We don't have an affiliate link for it or anything or any of your products. I just like seeing what you're doing. So far away, mate, or if you want to drop a
Yeah,
link in the chat, tell us. we'll post the link with the video afterwards if anyone wants to check out your stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I have a bunch of free content and stuff too. I mean, I gotta grab it. I came unprepared, so I can give it to you, Gary. If you can, I don't know if there's a way to just, if anyone wants it, reach out to Gary or myself. But
Give us the
so
links.
Quart,
Yeah, give us the links afterwards,
okay.
mate. So if you're watching this video in the replay or anything, give us the links. We'll drop it in the replay. Romson, if you're in our Facebook group, which I'm assuming you must be, we'll post the replay in there and we'll have the links in there. So anything you send us or talk about now, Ty, we'll post with that.
Oh yeah. I mean, it depends because like sometimes you can have like variable outputs with, so it's like static copy versus dynamic copy. Dynamic copy is like populated with, different data points, AI outputs that are positioned differently, or the output is different for every lead. So it matches the lead, matches, what the data says about them or what the research says about them. So I mix it, but like my general, like if you go into my instantly or my smart lead, all you're gonna see, like I'll do it right here. Like I'll show you like let me just pull this up real quick. So like if I go into here, I use Clay. So like my course is 600. It has like AI inbox manager in it, so it replaces a full on human role, and it walks you through it. So like see how this right here is. So this is the email that we're sending. If I go to my sequence, this is what it looks like. Email one, but not necessarily everything in the output is dynamic. Some of it is static, but I handle everything in my tech stack. So that way I can automate, like, how do I say this? I don't have to come into Smart Lead to make an adjustment. If I make an adjustment to the copy, I can just make that adjustment over in this one tech and not have to make modifications in two different techs. So I kind of like streamlined that process. So your answer for that is like we do everything with Clay just because it like modularizes and creates workflows that you can automate. It's just like Make or Zapier, just a different user interface. And so to answer your question, like this email right here for this one is like 60% of it is dynamic and the other 40% is it's static. So it's the same for every output. But I bring it into Smart Leader instantly from just a variable like this, and then preview. See, it's a whole email. And so if that, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Yeah. But there's no right or wrong way for it. But how do I say this? Like call to actions being personalized. Obviously that how your value proposition is positioned, and then like what I would argue, just, and I know we're over, guys, but that first line is more important than the subject line. Obviously, your subject line matters, your first line matters, but that first line is what's going to tell them they're going to open or not. So it's just like if you say, "I hope this finds you well," and that's what they see, they're not going to open that because they already opened 100 of those and they were absolute trash. So their negative biases are already associated to that. I hope this finds you well. And so that's why the personalization is so impactful, because it allows you to circumvent those associations, because the probability of you sounding the exact same as everyone else is far less likely, especially if you had to go gather more information, more research, so you can really position yourself in a way that so like they said, top 1% of salesmen do what the 99% don't. It's because they're avoiding those negative cognitive bias associations of the people that they're speaking to, so the brain can't work against what your objective is with that person, because the brain's always, we're in the era of information overload. So so just my insights around like the personalization and the AI is obviously like, because you got to get them to open up the email. That's like literally 50% of the battle. And so personalizing that first line with AI and aggregated and enriched information on that prospect is like, there's nothing that works better. Obviously, you could speak straight to a problem, but what is the likelihood of that problem, unless you pre-segmented, that list actually matching that person, unless you've used AI in that first line? You would have to because AI allows you to basically how do I say this, to get personal and granular with each lead at scale, because the outputs are all going to be different. I hope that answered the question. And then for emails, just for emails in your sequence, we kind of moved to like two, and then like we'll put trailers. So we'll send 2 emails. Because if you look at the data, so I'm doing a thing with Smart Lead this week on it in the community. But if you look at the data, your first email is going to have about 2.5 times more action than the second email, and it's 10x better, usually better than the third email. And so obviously you catch these tailwind opportunities, but generally speaking, if you got enough people to reach out to, the less you focus on those second, third, and fourth emails, the more movement you're actually going to have in your campaign, because the mathematics of that first email are exponentially greater than the returns on 2 and 3. And so there's different strategies to be mindful of that, because you can only send out X amount of emails a day, and you're sending, a good portion of those to email 2 and email 3. You're actually reducing the probability of you getting a return at that time if you have new eyes that you can reach out to. And so we now basically don't go past 2. We do obviously with some like this one, because it's got a smaller TAM, but we separate it. So we go like, 1 day, and then 3 days, and then we'll push out like 7 days, and then like 30 days, and then like 60 days, get some of these tailwind different things. But always being mindful that new eyes are more profitable in cold outreach than existing eyes. And so, yeah, I know that was a long-winded answer and explanation, but for the 4-sequence guy, if you have a decent sized TAM and you get in front of more people, you're going to find if you've been optimizing for that email 1, it's going to be performing exponentially better than those 2, 3, and 4. And so you'll get more leads, more calls booked by reducing that down to 2, but more so focusing on that first email. The strategy, we booked 32 calls in 7 days, and we didn't send out any follow-ups. So in 7 days, we booked 32 phone calls. And what we did is we just reached out to new people every day. And then we had about a 30% booking rate, 4% reply rate, or like a 3.5% reply rate, and then like a 55, 60% positive reply rate. And if I'd have sent follow-ups in that week, we would not have booked 32 calls. We would have booked like 23. But the mathematics of focusing on email 1 pushed us to 32. So just food for thought on the mathematics of outbound. That was a lot. Sorry.
Well, you're getting deep into it, mate. Deep into it. It's good. What do we have else here? Altus just had a comment, said long time instantly user and N8 end user. They are the best. Started using Clay recently, but a little expensive, but hyper personalized. Thanks for this, mate. Glad you got some good stuff out of this, Altus, mate. Any other questions? Anyone else got any other questions? Or yeah, we're just a little bit over time. Titus, go ahead.
Hey, Ty, thanks for that. I was just wondering if you're noticing much of a difference in terms of reply rates to cold emails now versus even say 6 months ago, because I'm noticing a massive drop. And then I've even just restarted a campaign which was exactly the same as one I ran about 5 months ago, which was working really well then. And now it's like hardly any results in comparison. I'm just wondering if it's a general environment or if it's my list or something like that.
It's a deliverability factor. So number 1, you're probably reaching out to Microsoft. So like that's a big change. So like you're nobody like when I was saying this, we're getting to iClouds, we're getting to Yahoo's. Like we use smart servers to increase the deliverability and the IP support for that outbound. So we weren't sharing pools with other people. But generally speaking, like the Microsofts, and then as well too is the unique content. So part of the advantage of using AI generated copy, number 1, you still got to be mindful of like the spam trigger keywords, contextual, flags and stuff like that. Obviously, HTML increases the probability of you getting into there. But the AI copy allows you to send out unique content. So if you look at an email, so email 1 through email 1000, like what is the ratio of unique outputs per email? What is the varying word count? What is the varying word choice? And then does that also fall in line with the context around like the HTML, spam words and like context, triggers, like overly salesy content, stuff, etc. So it helps keep your copy fresh. So because anything that starts to get picked up on. So that's really where I would go to is like, how are you cleaning your lists now? So like I clean my list now based on the recipient server. I didn't do that 6 months ago, but now I do that now. I don't necessarily always stick to it, but when I go look at my replies, they're all Google's. They're not Microsoft's. So that's really what I would suggest is you got something in the deliverability that is so yeah, I would guess like I don't know how syntax your copy is, but it's like, okay, well, if you freshen up your copy, maybe you say the same things, but say it differently. You clean your list a little bit better and start kind of looking at servers as well now. And even if you want to test it out yourself, so you can kind of validate it and feel comfortable, like skipping Microsoft's, put those and kind of branch when you push into there. So like I use Clay, so I would create a flow and I would say, hey, if it's a Microsoft push into this campaign, if it's a Google SMTP or anything but Microsoft, push it into this campaign. And then I can associate which emails go to those campaigns. So like I put the Microsofts obviously with the Microsoft, and then I put the Googles and the SMTPs with the Googles and SMTPs, and then I would monitor those different stats. But if you do that, I can almost actually I'll say this, I will guarantee that your deliverability rate, your reply rate, your response rate will be greater on the Google and SMT side than it'd be on the Microsoft side. And so that's another thing with the AI copy is it helps you not be that low hanging fruit of like replicated mass sent copy that like if you look at it like who sends out in that kind of a pattern, if you're looking for scammers and spammers and how they behave, like who would be doing that other than a scammer or a spammer. But obviously I'm not saying that's what you're doing, but maybe the copy's burned out. So like keeping your copy fresh. That's what AI allows you to kind of do is it always stays fresh. So just food for thought.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Three of those four emails are mainly static with the odd keyword replacement and things like that. So basically can those three just do a 2 email sequence and put AI copy in the second one as well. Yeah.
100%. And then just food for thought too is just if you are sending like say your ratio is like 30% unique and 30% AI and 70% static, make sure you have more variations so that static is variabilized and spin tax. So like even like not everything has to be spin tax, but in your copy, you need to like focus spin tax first. At a minimum, you need to have heavy spin tax and different potential like possibilities for outputs. And as well as so if you have more static, make sure you spin tax it more and create variations or variants of it. And then if you're more AI driven, then it's really just like a prompting process. So like if I prompt and 70% of all my emails are unique and it's using information only relevant to that lead, then that's basically going to solve everything for me right there. And you can use DeepSeek if you want to keep your costs really low on creating copy. It's like DeepSeek's super, 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 super cheap. So like there's ways for you to do that without really breaking the bank. And then obviously using Anthropic, which is my favorite, a lot more expensive. Or obviously OpenAI is going to be, Fuse 4.0. You're looking at 3 cents minimum, 2 to 3 cents minimum versus DeepSeek, where it's going to be like 0.00003 cents. And so at scale, you save a lot of costs doing that. So long answer. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thank you.
Mate, just a question on that, because you're talking about like rotating the copy, randomizing the copy, keeping that unique and fresh so that you can kind of get through a bit more. What about speed and cadence of sending emails? You're going to send out 10,000 emails. Do you have a process or a time frame for speed and cadence of sending them out? Like you don't want to send out 10,000 emails on the push of a button, right?
Well, it's all mathematics. So cold email is like very mathematically driven, just like we're talking about like email 1 versus email 2 versus email 3. Like it's just like with paid ads and all these other different channels. It's got its own little mathematics, its own little KPIs that matter. So your outbound volume is dictated by how many emails you have to how many domains you have. So for example, if I need 100 email addresses, I know I need to buy 33 domains, and then I'll attach 3 email addresses to each domain. And then I know I can send 20. Personally, I keep it at 20. I won't send any more than 20 emails per email address. So if I want to send out 10,000 emails a day and I want to reach X amount of people in a month, then I just do the mathematics. Okay, how big do I need to build this system? okay, if I'm doing this, if I'm reaching out to the same person 2 times within a 30-day span or 3 times in a 30-day span, okay, so I got to make sure I divide by 3, and then that way I can, how do I say this? Then I can decide, okay, well, if I want to reach out to 10,000 new people, at least, so I'm going to reach X amount of new people every month, and this is what I want it to be. Then I need to make sure that I accommodate the dilution of outbound based on how deep my sequences are. So, like, generally speaking, I like to build a minimum of 100 emails. And so that's potentially 2,000 emails a day. But if I need to send, 10,000, then obviously I would build that. I would multiply that by 5. So instead of 100, I need 500. I need 500 emails to send out 10,000 emails a day. And then obviously if I would reach out in a 2 sequence, then so it's 10,000 times 5, that's 200, or 10,000. 10 times 5 is 50,000. Yeah, and then that's gonna be 200,000. And then if I'm setting out, a 2-step sequence, then I'm like, okay, that 200,000 is 100,000 people. And so you just have to be mindful of those different mathematics, and like at least 3 to 4 days. But I mean, the actual outbound volume is just dependent on how many email addresses and how many domains you purchase and attach to them. And then obviously at that point, you definitely want to use resellers because you keep your price down. Or if you're doing SMTP too, it's a lot cheaper, but SMTP doesn't last as long as like the Googles do, for example. They'll burn a lot faster. They always do. Still to this day, haven't seen them not. So did that answer your question?
Yes, it's a different way of thinking about it, which I hadn't thought about it in that way before. So yeah, thank you. Okay. Any last questions for anyone? Otherwise, we'll wrap up. We're a bit over time because got into the weeds in a good way there, Ty, which is great. Thank you so much. So yeah, if we don't have any last questions, mate, we'll wrap up. Thank you so much, mate. I'll DM you after this. Send me through the links. We'll get the recording of this posted in our Facebook group. It'll be on our YouTube. So if anyone's watching this stuff that we've talked about, there'll be links below. Some free resources, a course that you've got, some training. Talk to Ty, follow him on Facebook. He's doing some cool stuff. Thank you so much, man.
Appreciate you, Gary. God bless. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.